Hello and welcome, my friends. I am Zed of the world. This is the Gladius. Now, I was suggested to do a review of the Gladius first, above other ships, and honestly, that's something that I would do myself without anybody asking me to. Now, first things first, I have one of these ships with LTI. I bought it when it came out. I love the idea. I melted my M50 for it. I, granted, I love the M50, don't get me wrong, but this ship was definitely worth the wait for it to come out and be flyable. Um, if you haven't seen a Gladius video yet, which I'm sure you have if you're looking into buying one or if you're looking into, wanting to fly one later in the PTU, or the PU rather. Um, I hope that you take my advice from this video into account. Um, but let's talk about the aesthetics of the ship first. I'd like to start with the baseline actually first, the landing gear. This is the most important part to me of a spacecraft, uh, or any aircraft in general. Actually, if you lose your landing gear, you're gonna have a lot more damage going into a landing than not, obviously. So, I love the landing gear on the ship. I love the way that it comes out. If you've ever seen it come out, I can show you later on how it comes in and out. But I love where it's located. It's located in the most heavily armed section of the ship. You're not going to have it blown off in combat as frequently as, say, the Hornet, which has on a fragile wing segment, which tends to either get clipped by an asteroid or getting shot off in combat a lot. Now, this is one of my biggest detractors for the Hornet right now, thinking about making landings in carriers and whatnot. When you're going to have to do those emergency landings when you're damaged and you've got no landing gear because somebody blew it off, or you've got one landing gear missing because somebody blew your wing off. It's a it's not a very good design choice. But for the Gladius, this is a great design choice. The landing gear look hardy. They look like they can actually handle the stress of carrying the weight of the spacecraft for sure. Um, the spacecraft itself looks very very stealthy, and I love that look. Uh, and I mean, it's just a sexy ship in general. You'll hear a lot of people complaining about the extra fins, say right here and on the bottom, on the top. And you know what? I don't really mind. I kind of like the aesthetics of it. There are some things that I would change here and there, but overall, the design of this ship is fucking fantastic. I love it. I do. Tell your friends, I love it. Um, but other than that, you got six missile slots, three guns, and that's a pretty good loadout if you consider the loadout of the rest of the ships. Now, a lot of people are using the Hornet as a baseline for how many guns that you should have, how many missiles that you should have. But if you look at the majority of the Star Citizen fighters so far, it's been a pretty standard three guns and a couple of missiles. So we got the 325A, which is the most heavily outfitted civilian ship that has come out so far, which has three guns on it and four missiles. And I think that's a pretty good loadout, and I'd like it for CIG to keep it that way, keep it condensed to a limited number of guns, a limited number of missiles, everything like that. I feel like it rewards more of a unique gameplay type, and I think the Hornet should be an outlier for that. Um, the Hornet carrying six guns max currently, and possibly eight in the future if they ever bring back that chin gun mount. Or not the mount rather, but the two that actually go into the chin. I think that will be a bad idea, but I think that it should be an outlier to have that many guns. Now I know the Vanguard has five, but it's also a heavy fighter. And then it's got the turret on top, obviously. But it's a long-range escort fighter. You can live in it. It's gonna be a heavy ship, and it's gonna be a heavy hitter, and it's a military spec ship. So when you're buying a Vanguard, if you guys do buy a Vanguard, remember you are buying the military variant of it and not a civilian variant of it. The civilian variant might not have some of those features, like it might not have that size 4 gun on it. Um, but it might, and you never know. I'm not really sure where CIG is going to go with the military versus civilians, but from basing it off of the Idris sale, you're going to lose the biggest gun on the ship. And I think that's okay. I think that it'll still be good with its 4 size 2s. I believe I said in my Vanguard video that it was a size 1, 4 size 1s. I was corrected. I was wrong on that. Yes, it is a size 2 gun mounted internally. But on the Gladius, there's another thing I like about this. The getting into the cockpit animation. It's beautiful. Now let's hear the computer voice. I really like the computer voice. I think it could be touched up a little bit, but let's listen to it for real quick.
Landing request approved. Landing complete. Automated landing initiated. Aegis combat assist activated. Systems green.
Now that doesn't get you pumped up, does it? Because it gets me pumped up. I love it. It sounds very military. It sounds like something a future military would put into their aircraft. Just because it sounds like somebody's really getting you in there. Now let's take a look at the landing gear here. Let me change my camera angle a bit, and we're gonna take off a little bit. Now look at the way that the landing gear comes in, because that's gorgeous. I love that. There's a couple of things with 1.1 I'd like to get out of the way, but I'm going to do that in a different video. I'm going to do a little review of 1.1 and a review of the landing system and everything like that. I think there's a couple of things that they need to improve upon that. One thing that they should improve, I think, on the Gladius is raising the pilot up a little bit, like they did with the Gladius, or not the Gladius, the Hornet. If anybody remembers from the original Hornet, it was kind of like a bathtub in there, and you'd sit down and you couldn't see over the edge of the railing. Not a very good thing, but I think if they raise the pilot seat up a little bit in the Gladius, I don't think anybody would complain all that much either. Just because, you know, I'd like to see over the sides of my ship. You know, I'd like to see the ground where I'm landing, especially if I've got an Oculus Rift on, which I do have. And you may see me do some videos of it in the future. I would like to be able to lean over the side and see the ground as I'm landing on it if I'm doing a VTOL landing. Now let's fly the ship around. Now I love the way that this ship flies. This ship flies gorgeously. I mean, to steal a quote from the M50 commercial, we don't really have time to plod through the depths of space. We want to cut through it, and we want to glide very, very gracefully. And I think this blurs the line between the M50 and the 300 series, because the 300 series, it flies nice, but it's a little too graceful in its turns. This thing will cut through a turn if it needs to, but it flies super gracefully if you don't need to make any of those sharp turns. Now, this is a ship that doesn't need afterburners to turn. And I'll say this one thing about the Hornet is you need afterburners to turn. I think we should have some extra fuel tanks on that thing. Just because every time I make a turn with the Hornet, I'm afterburning. Because I need that extra power to keep in the fight. Now, this is brochured to be a light fighter. However, I think that this is the premier dogfighter. They like to talk the Hornet up as being a dogfighter, but to be in all honesty, in my opinion, the Hornet is more of a brawler. This is a dogfighter. This is a pure dogfighter, pure and simple. Just because a dogfighter in World War II terms was a plane that could dodge, it could weave, and it could stick in the fight and be in the fray. and be able to keep up with things. Now that's what this ship is. It can stay in the fight. It can't take a hit, but it can stay in the fight without getting hit. It's more of a float like a butterfly, sting like a bee type of situation. And that front gun, um, I am not sure what it's called. I took it off for this review, obviously, if you didn't notice, just to do the ship. I wanted to focus on the ship, not the weapons, not the weapons loadout at all. I don't need the weapons loadout for my reviews here. Uh, with how much is subject to change, the weapons are 100% the biggest factor in that. They change all the time from update to update. So until everything is fleshed out with them, I am not going to be doing a review with weapons on. However, the weapons that it has on it right now, as a default kit, are actually very, very good. It's a good loadout, and I will challenge you to find a better loadout that's not something that's overpowered right now. Say monoboating sledges or the Omniski sixes before that. Um, it does very, very well in Vanduul Swarm, and that's something that I like to put my ships to the test in. The Aurora LN does very, very good in Vanduul Swarm. This ship does fantastically, beautifully good compared to the 300i, which is what I'm comparing it to, because the 300i is the closest statistically right now with the Gladius, without looking at, say, the ship specs page or anything like that. You take off the current guns that it's got on the wings, you put on a gimbal mount onto there, and this thing becomes the perfect dogfighter. You don't need to change out what the weapons are, you just need to change out the fact that they're gimbaled, and that's it. And I mean, that's all I really have to say about that. And I hope you guys enjoyed my review. As always, fly with honor. And if you guys want to challenge me on any aspect, I would say sell your Hornet, buy Gladius. And that is my final thought on the matter. This ship is worth it. Fly with honor, my